The lady you see on the thumbnail is international master Alina Kashlinskaya. In September 2023, she gave birth to a son. And here we are, 10 months later, she won the first leg of the FIDE Grand Prix chess tournament and bagged a cash prize of 18,000 euros. Fantastic achievement. Congratulations to her. She was not only playing against some of the best female chess players of the modern era, but she also had to attend to her motherly duties because she was accompanied by her 10-month-old son to this tournament. So, fantastic achievement considering the circumstances she played this tournament in. And in this video, I want to show you one of her games where she completely destroyed the Ruy Lopez opening. She shared something very interesting on why she chose this specific variation. So, without wasting any further time, let's get started. We have the Ruy Lopez on the board after the move bishop to b5. By the way, with the white pieces is playing Mariya Muzychuk, a grandmaster from Ukraine originally, but now she lives in Spain given the situation that the world is in. So after bishop b5, both sides continue to play the open main variation of the Ruy Lopez, and we reach this position. Now in this position, black has many different options to play, many different variations. Alina chooses to play the Ruy Lopez Zaitsev variation with bishop b7. Now the idea of this move will soon become clear to you. When she was asked why she chose the Zaitsev variation, she said she was okay with making a draw with the black pieces. So she didn't mind to choose an opening that was very solid, and Zaitsev is a solid opening. At the same time, I must mention that Alina's husband is the strong Polish grandmaster Radoslav Wojtaszek, who is well known for his opening preparation. So there is a good chance that Alina is going to be very well prepared in the opening generally. Okay, so bishop b7 was played. White played d4. Black developed his rook to e8. Knight d2. Bishop f8. Bishop c2. And now black plays the move knight to b8. And this is one of the main ideas of the Zaitsev variation. The idea is to reroute the knight to d7 and at the same time open the line for the bishop to put pressure on this e4 pawn. What this pressure on the e4 pawn does is that it stops white from playing knight f1. Because now if white goes knight f1, they are losing this e4 pawn after takes, and knight e4. Okay, there is no one to guard. There's one less defender to guard the e4 pawn. So that's why after knight b8, white cannot really move her knight. So she plays the move a4, puts more pressure on the black queenside pawns. Black puts the knight on d7, bishop d3, more pressure on this pawn. Now black has to defend with the move c6. White now plays queen to c2, getting one more protector to the e4 pawn. Black plays h6 and white goes knight f1. This move is an inaccuracy, and it turns out that after this, white never manages to get back into the game. Never. Instead of knight f1, it would have been much better to play a move like b3. The idea is to take control of the c4 square. Now you may ask, what is the need of controlling the c4 square? Well, it will soon become clear to you why. But in the game, white played the move knight to f1, and we'll see how black responds. Now black took and pushed this pawn to c5, striking in the center. At the same time, because black has played ed4, there's an open line for the rook attacking this e-pawn. So white had to defend it with knight to g3. Now black plays the move c4. And that's the reason why you needed a pawn here to stop black from essentially playing c4 herself. So c4, the bishop drops to f1. And black strikes in the center with the move d5. Boom. White wants to keep the center closed. White doesn't want to allow an open center, so she plays e5. The knight comes forward. Now there is a threat to capture knight into g3 and damage white's pawn structure. So white decides to develop a piece and at the same time defend this knight. Now black plays a very interesting move. She goes knight to b8 back. And the idea of this is that after knight e4, which is a move that happened in the game, d4, the knight drops back to d2, and black would love to capture this pawn with the queen, okay, or somehow capture the pawn. However, if you capture with the queen, white could play rook a d1, or white could just capture this pawn, then play rook a d1. The queen is in a slightly awkward position. because of which black decides to play knight c6. And that's the point of rerouting the knight from d7, b8 to c6. Got it? So knight c6, white captures. Now black captures the central pawn, attacking the queen. The queen has to run, and black decides to chop off the white knight. Because if, let's say, black let this knight live, it could jump on d6 and could create some nasty problems in the black position. So black chopped it off. Knight jumped to b3, attacking the rook. The rook came to e1. The knight came back, attacked another rook, and also attacked the pawn. So white had to attack the queen. Now the queen had to move. The queen could move in many different places, but black chose to put it on the c8 square. The idea is that it could go to f5 or to e6 in the future. Okay, that's why queen c8. And at the same time, now this a4 pawn is under attack. So white had to save it, which is why white played the move a5, saving the pawn. Now the knight dropped to e6, attacked this rook. The rook dropped to e4. The knight captured the bishop. Rook captured the knight. And now the queen came to a6. Now let us pause for a moment and take stock of the position. The material is equal. Both sides have equal pawns, equal number of pieces. However, black has more space on the queen side. And what that means is that it will be much easier for his pieces to maneuver and find better squares on the queen side. Okay, and black takes advantage of that very beautifully in the game. So queen e6, the rook came to e4, just getting one more piece to protect this e5 pawn. Black meanwhile continued to get her pieces on better squares as well, and in this position white pushed g4, attacking the queen, but it comes at a very, very heavy cost. You'll soon find out what happens. The queen drops to d7, black saves the queen. The king comes to g3. Now the bishop comes to c5. Remember, I told you that there is more space for black on the queen side. It means black's pieces are going to find better squares on the queen side. It's going to be much easier for them to maneuver from the queen side. So bishop c5 is a good example of that. The pawns nicely shelter the bishop. Now white played rook 1 to e2. The idea is just that whenever black has a dark square bishop, you don't want your pieces to be on the dark squares. Otherwise they become targets. At least they could become potential targets. That's why rook e2 was played. Now we finally get to see the drawback of this g4 move. Black first goes rook d3, charges at the position. The queen drops back. The black queen comes forward. White king goes to g2. And now black sacrifices the rook with rook into e5. The point is, white cannot take this rook. Otherwise, they would get checkmated here. Like this, like this, and this mate. Okay, so that's why none of this would have happened if this pawn were on this g2 square, because this pawn from g2 would have protected the f3 pawn. Okay, so that's the drawback of pushing the pawns in front of your king. Often the other pawns, the nearby pawns, could get weakened. The nearby squares could get weakened. So rook e5 happened. White cannot capture the black rook, so white had to play queen c1. Black simply took the rook, and she gave rook d2 check. Now the rook is invading from the 7th rank. Bishop e2 to block the check. Now the queen comes to d3, attacking the pinned piece. There are two attackers now on this e2 bishop. White has to save it. So white goes queen to e1, protecting the bishop. And now black just finds time to gobble this free pawn. Remember, this bishop is pinned. It cannot move because the rook is here. White meanwhile tries to create some counterplay on the king side. And this is a useful strategy. When you are losing, you want to create counterplay so that you can somehow find a perpetual somewhere or somehow try to get an attack against the enemy king. White goes h4. Black has a fast pawn. Black pushes. That's what you do. g5. Black pushes. Now the king has moved out of the pin. There is no pin here. So there is a very real threat of the bishop capturing the queen. So the queen had to drop to d6, give a check. The king dropped to h3. The queen came back to d7 and the king went to g3. Now I like black's strategy of how she is putting the queen on all the light squares. Like the queen is controlling all the light squares and the black bishop is controlling dark squares. This is a very, very standard strategy and very useful to remember. Okay, now black plays the move c2 and this pawn is just one step away from queening. However, white plays queen c3. Is she getting some counterplay because this rook is attacked, this bishop is attacked? Not quite, because black has calculated a forced win from here. Black goes rook b1. It looks like black has gambled the pawn. However, now the position is completely lost for white. Can you find what black can play here to win? Let me know in the comments. And if you are liking the video, don't forget to smash the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Alright, so in this position, black plays the move queen to c7 check. This is the winning move. And the point is, the king cannot really go to g2 or h3, because let's say if it goes to h3, there is this check, after which the queen is coming and finishing off the game. And even if it goes to g2, the game ends more or less in the same way. Check, check, and the queen comes to h2 and gives a checkmate. So that's why you cannot move the king. So white played the move f4. And now there is a very simple discovered attack. The queens are facing each other, which means if you move the bishop, there is a check on the king. And in this position, white had to resign, because the next move, black is simply going to take white's queen and it's going to be a completely winning position. With this victory, Alina Kashlinskaya has not only won the event and won 18,000 euros, she has also secured her second Grandmaster norm, which means if she scores one more Grandmaster norm, she will officially become a Grandmaster.